All right, my name is Elizabeth Kesterson and I'm at Skagit Valley College and I'm going to read To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee. I'm starting at chapter 7. Jem stayed moody and silent for a week. As Atishus had once advised me to do, I tried to climb into Jem's skin and walk around in it. If I had gone alone into the Radley place at 2 in the morning, my funeral would have been held the next afternoon. So I left Jem alone and tried not to bother him. School started. The second grade was as bad as the first, only worse. They still flashed cards at you and wouldn't let you read or write. Miss Caroline's progress next door could be estimated by the frequency of laughter. However, the usual crew had flunked the first grade again and were helpful in keeping order. The only thing good about the second grade was that this year I had to stay as late as Jem, and we usually walked home together at 3 o'clock. One afternoon, when we were crossing the schoolyard towards home, Jen suddenly said, "There's something I didn't tell you." And this was the first complete sentence in several days. I encouraged him. "About what?" "About that night." "You've never told me anything about that night," I said. Jem waved my words away as if fanning gnats. He was silent for a while. Then he said, "When I went back for my breeches, they were all in a tangle when I was getting out of them. I couldn't get them loose. When I went back," Jem took a deep breath. "When I went back, they were folded across the fence, like they were expecting me. Across, and something else," Jem's voice was flat. "Show you when we get home. They've been sewed up, not like a lady sewed them, like something I'd try to do, all crooked. It's almost like somebody knew you were coming back for them." Jem shuddered. "Like somebody was reading my mind. Like somebody could tell what I was gonna do. Can't anybody tell what I'm gonna do lest they know me, can they, Scout? Can they, Scout?" Jem's question was an appeal. I reassured him. "Can't anybody tell what you're gonna do lest they live in the house with you? And even I can't tell sometimes." We were walking past our tree. It's a knothole rested a ball of gray twine. "Don't take 'em, Jem," I said. "This is somebody's hiding place." "I didn't think so, Scout." "Yes, it is. Somebody like Walter Cunningham comes down here every recess and hides his things, and we come along and take 'em away from him. Listen, let's leave it and wait a couple of days. If it ain't gone then, we'll take it, okay?" "Okay, you might be right," said Jem. "It must be some little kid's hide place. Things his hides from his bigger folks. You know, it's only when school's in that we've found things." "Yeah," I said, "but we never go in there by the summertime." We went home. Next morning, the twine was where we had left it. When it was still there on the third day, Jem pocketed it. From then on, we considered everything we found in the knothole our property. The second grade was grim, but Jem assured me that the older I got, the better school would be, that he started off the same way, and it was not until one reached the 6th grade that one learned anything of value. The 6th grade seemed to please him from the beginning. He went through a brief Egyptian period that baffled me. He tried to walk flat a great deal, sticking one arm in front of him and one in the back of him, putting one foot behind the other. He declared Egyptians walked that way. I said if they did, I didn't see how they got anything done. But Jem said they accomplished more than the Americans ever did. They invented toilet paper and perpetual embalming, and asked where we would be today if they hadn't. Atishus told me to delete the adjectives and I'd have the facts. There are no clearly defined seasons in South Alabama. Summer drifts into autumn, and autumn is sometimes never followed by winter, but turns into days-old springs that melts into summer again. That fall was a long one, hardly cool enough for a light jacket. Jem and I were trotting in our orbit one mild October afternoon when our knothole stopped us again. Something white was inside this time. Jem let me do the honors. I pulled out 2 small images carved in soap. One was the figure of a boy. The other wore a crude dress. Before I remembered that there was no such thing as hoodooing, I shrieked and threw them down. Jem snatched them up. "What's the matter with you?" he yelled. He rubbed the figures free of red dust. "These are good," he said. "I've never seen any of these good." He held them down to me. They were almost perfect miniatures of 2 children. The boy had on shorts, and a shock of soapy hair fell to his eyebrows. I looked up at Jem. A point of straight brown hair kicked downwards from his part. I had never noticed it before. Jem looked from the girl doll to me. The girl doll wore bangs. So did I. "These are us," he said. "Who did 'em, you reckon?" "Who do we know around here who whittles?" he asked. "Mr. Avery." "Mr. Avery just does like this. I mean, carves." Mr. Avery averaged a stick of stove wood per week. He honed it down to a toothpick and chewed it. There's old Miss Stephanie Crawford's sweetheart, I said. He carves all right, but he lives down the country. When would he ever pay any attention to us? Maybe he sits on the porch and looks at us instead of Miss Stephanie. If it was him, I would. Jem stared at me long, so I asked what was the matter, but he got nothing. Scout for an answer. When we went home, Jem put the dolls in his trunk. Less than 2 weeks later, we found a whole package of chewing gum, which we enjoyed. The fact that everything on the Radley place was poison having slipped Jem's memory. The following week, the knothole yielded a tarnished medal. Jem showed it to Aticius, who said it was a spelling medal, that before we were born, the Macomb County schools had spelling contests and awarded medals to the winners. Aticius said someone must have lost it, and had we asked around. Jem camel-kicked me when I tried to say where we had found it. Jem asked Aticius if he remembered anyone who ever won, and Aticius said no. Our biggest prize appeared 4 days later. It was a pocket watch that wouldn't run, on a chain with an aluminum knife. You reckon it's white gold, Jem? Don't know. I'll show it to Aticius. Aticius said it would probably be worth $10, knife, chain, and all if it were new. Did you swap with somebody at school, he asked. Oh, no, sir. Jem pulled out his grandfather's pocket watch that Aticius let him carry once a week if Jem was careful with it. On the days he carried the watch, Jem walked on eggs. Aticius, if it's all right with you, I'd rather have this one instead. Maybe I can fix it. The new wore off his grandfather's watch, and carrying it became a day's burdensome task. Jem no longer felt the necessity of asserting the power every 5 minutes. He did a fair job, only 1 spring and 2 tiny pieces left over, but the watch would not run. Oh, he sighed, I'll never go Scout.